day 62 since Nancy Guthrie disappeared. And just hours ago, local police confirmed a massive break in the case. Investigators have officially located a disturbed crime scene deep in an isolated desert region. And according to the latest police briefing, they have recovered forensic evidence from that site, tying a specific secret name to the disappearance. This changes the entire trajectory of the investigation. The lead investigator stepped in front of the local news cameras today. He confirmed the desert discovery. He confirmed they possess a suspect name, but he adamantly refused to release that identity to the public. He cited the need to protect the integrity of the active case. This brings us to the central question of this update. Why the absolute silence? If law enforcement has tangible proof linking a person of interest to a remote crime scene, why let them roam free? Are investigators meticulously building an airtight legal case before seeking a warrant? Or are they baiting a psychological trap? They might want the suspect to feel a false sense of security. They want him to panic and make a critical mistake. The tension right now is suffocating. Forensic teams are currently scouring the desert earth. Yellow tape isolates a patch of wasteland miles from where Nancy was last seen. The silence from authorities is a calculated strategy. They know exactly who they are. Hunting, we are tracking every single update on this ongoing investigation around the clock. You need to know the moment the FBI moves and that arrest warrant is unsealed. Subscribe to Evidence with John and turn on notifications right now. When that secret name is finally broadcast to the world, we will break down every single detail right here. The suspect is likely watching the news today. He knows law enforcement found his mistake in the sand. He is waiting for the hammer to fall. We are waiting with him. The stakes have never been higher. A disturbed patch of earth in the middle of nowhere holds the key to the last 2 months of agony. The desert does not give up its secrets easily, but today it gave the police a prime target. To understand the gravity of this desert discovery, you need the timeline of the silence. Go back to day 1. Nancy Guthrie failed to arrive at work. She vanished without a single warning sign. There was no preparation for a trip, no unusual banking activity, just a sudden and complete erasure from her daily routine. According to the Associated Press, the initial investigation found absolutely nothing out of the ordinary at her home. Her life simply stopped without an explanation. By day 12, the situation grew far more concerning. CNN reported a total lack of digital activity, no cell phone pings registered on local towers, no credit card swipes occurred, no social media logins were detected. In a world constantly tracked by technology, Nancy became a ghost. The first 60 days of this investigation were defined by agonizing dead ends. Search parties combed the local city grids. Police interviewed friends and acquaintances. Everything pointed to a massive void. The sheer lack of evidence became the most terrifying evidence. Someone orchestrated this disappearance to avoid city cameras and digital tracking entirely. The local police exhausted their resources searching familiar territory. They looked at the daily commute. They analyzed her regular stops. Nothing yielded a single clue. The perpetrator knew how to navigate the urban environment invisibly. That requires planning. That requires an understanding of surveillance blind spots. The first 2 months were a masterclass in evasion, but criminals always leave a signature when they change environments. The transition from the controlled city streets to the chaotic desert landscape is where the plan fractured. The investigation stalled and the public grew restless. The timeline stretched into weeks of quiet. Every promising lead evaporated into thin air. The total absence of clues in the city makes this new development absolutely critical. The suspect managed to move without a trace through populated areas, but they made a crucial error in the wasteland. All urban avenues hit a wall until a forensic trace dragged the investigation miles away into the unforgiving desert sand. The focus is no longer on her quiet neighborhood or her workplace. The focus is entirely on this isolated perimeter. The environment itself is a hostile witness. Local news choppers hover over a barren expanse. The perimeter is massive. It sits far beyond the paved highways. The terrain dictates the investigation. You cannot simply walk into this area. You cannot drive a standard sedan through the deep sand. Access requires a heavy-duty vehicle. Access requires specific intent. The suspect did not wander out here by accident. The dirt roads are practically invisible to the untrained eye. Navigating this wasteland takes extreme familiarity. It takes a terrifying level of premeditation. The isolation is absolute. Cellular towers do not reach this sector. GPS signals falter. If a vehicle breaks down here, survival becomes a serious concern. The perpetrator embraced that risk. They chose a dead zone. This geographical choice completely alters the suspect profile. We are not analyzing a crime of opportunity. We are looking at a highly calculated tactical decision. The suspect sought a place where nobody watches. They wanted a location devoid of digital surveillance. The city has eyes everywhere. The desert is entirely blind, or so they thought. The extreme heat accelerates the degradation of physical evidence. The wind wipes out tire tracks in a matter of hours. The suspect relied on the elements to sanitize the scene. They weaponized the environment against the police. But the environment failed them. Finding this specific location requires a monumental investigative effort. The police did not stumble upon this site. They were led here. Something triggered a search in the middle of nowhere. The geographical shift is jarring. The first 2 months focused entirely on urban grids. Search teams checked dumpsters, they pulled city security footage, they canvassed familiar neighborhoods. All of it yielded nothing. The suspects successfully navigated the most surveilled areas without leaving a digital footprint. They evaded every camera, they dodged every license plate reader. That takes immense skill. It takes extreme caution. But the transition to the desert broke their perfect streak. The environment changes the rules of evasion. The suspect felt confident in the wasteland. That confidence bred carelessness. The isolation provided a false sense of security. The police are currently battling the elements to preserve the scene. Forensic technicians wear heavy protective gear under a brutal sun. They are sifting the sand millimeter by millimeter. Every grain of dirt is potential evidence. The logistical nightmare of securing a desert crime scene is staggering. Setting up a command post out here takes massive resources. Yet, the local authorities remain firmly planted. The payoff justifies the massive effort. They are standing precisely where the suspect felt invincible. The vast emptiness is deceiving. It looks like miles of nothing, but a highly localized area holds the entire weight of this case. The suspect drove out here under the cover of darkness or extreme isolation. They performed a specific task. They believed the vastness would swallow their secret forever. The sheer scale of the desert makes finding anything nearly impossible. It is like finding a needle in a continent. The police finding this exact spot is a miraculous breakthrough. It signals a major leak in the suspect's flawless plan. Something pointed the authorities to this barren patch of earth. A digital breadcrumb finally surfaced, or a witness finally spoke. The result is a secure perimeter in a hostile landscape. The focus is laser sharp. The police know the terrain hides the answer. The suspect knew the area. They knew the risks. They accepted the challenge of the desert, but the sand betrayed them. The aerial footage from local broadcasts reveals a chilling detail. The search is not broad, it is surgically precise. The yellow tape surrounds a very specific anomaly in the sand. The earth has been clearly disturbed. Someone disrupted the natural state of the desert floor. They used tools. They moved dirt. Forensic teams are zeroing in on this exact alteration. They are extracting soil samples with intense precision. They are treating the dirt as primary evidence. The ground itself is the witness. This discovery introduces a massive geographical puzzle. Look at the map. Pinpoint Nancy, quiet neighborhood. Now drop a pin on this isolated desert perimeter. The distance between these 2 points is alarming. The route requires significant travel time. It requires traversing major roadways. It means passing numerous county lines and potential traffic cameras. Yet the police found absolutely zero movement during the first 60 days. The suspect moved a massive secret across a heavily monitored state without triggering a single alarm. This is the ultimate virality hook for this case. How do you transport something so critical over such a vast distance invisibly? Leave your theories in the comments section below. Did they use commercial trucking lanes to blend in? Did they utilize an off-grid network of abandoned service roads? Did they swap vehicles multiple times to break the tracking chain? The logistics of this movement are terrifyingly precise. We are dealing with a phantom route. The police possess the final destination. The desert scene is a confirmed reality, but the journey from point A to point B remains a total blackout. The disturbed Earth is now yielding the ultimate prize. Investigators are unearthing physical material. They are bagging items pulled directly from the sand, and this material is not ambiguous. The police briefing confirmed a direct link. The forensic evidence recovered from this dirt points to a single individual. The Earth held onto a fatal mistake. A microscopic piece of the suspect was left behind in the wasteland. The investigation pivoted in an instant. Locating the scene was monumental. Identifying the person responsible through the dirt is the actual game changer. The yellow perimeter protects a story of human arrogance. The perpetrator believed the desert would erase their presence entirely. The forensic science proves them wrong. The identity of the secret name is currently locked inside the evidence bags leaving that site. Every sample of disturbed soil is a direct accusation. The authorities possess the name. They are holding it incredibly tight. The tension is palpable. The entire true crime community is waiting for the hammer to drop. You need to stay informed on this fast-moving situation. The arrest warrant could be unsealed at any moment. Make sure you subscribe to Evidence with John right now. Hit the notification bell so you are alerted the second the news breaks. When the police finally release that name to the public, we will analyze the entire charging document on this channel. The ground has literally shifted. The desert is giving up the truth. A minute trace left in the sand just destroyed a 60-day streak of perfect evasion. The suspect is no longer a ghost. They have a name, they have a face, and the police know exactly who they are. The isolation of the crime scene is directly contrasting the intense focus of the investigation. The suspect thought they were alone in the wasteland. They are now the center of a massive law enforcement dragnet. The dirt provided the roadmap. The forensic lab is drawing the target. The suspect is running out of time. The silence from the authorities is deafening. They are building an inescapable cage. The disturbed Earth was the first warning shot. The secret name is the final target. Locating the disturbed Earth was a monumental victory. But the actual item buried beneath the sand is the true weapon. According to local news affiliates, a distinct object bearing an undeniable forensic signature was extracted from the site. This is a crucial single-source leak. The media alleges the police recovered a physical anchor directly tying a person to the wasteland. The authorities have not confirmed the exact nature of this item. They are keeping the specifics locked down, but the speed of the forensic identification is incredibly telling. The lab results came back with terrifying velocity. Normal forensic analysis often takes weeks to process. Biological evidence can languish in backlogs for months, but this specific item triggered an immediate database hit. This rapid identification suggests two chilling possibilities. The suspect is already firmly established in the criminal system, or the item itself contained a direct and undeniable identifier. The perpetrator brought a piece of their identity into the desolate landscape. They left it behind during a critical moment of vulnerability. The desert heat did not destroy the link. The sweeping winds did not bury the truth. The sand preserved the forensic data flawlessly. Think about the psychology of dropping a critical piece of evidence. The physical exertion required to dig into hardened earth is immense. The perpetrator was likely operating under the cover of complete darkness. They were rushing to complete a horrific task. Muscle fatigue inevitably leads to catastrophic mental errors. A glove tears during the exertion. A burner phone slips out of a pocket. A specific tool is left behind in the dirt. The perpetrator was entirely focused on the primary objective. They ignored the secondary details of their own environment. They did not meticulously sweep the area before fleeing. They simply ran. The wasteland is a deeply chaotic and unpredictable environment. A sudden gust of wind can snatch a receipt away in a fraction of a second. The suspect left a microscopic piece of their existence behind. The investigative team seized that single mistake. They cataloged the item with extreme precision. They sent it directly to an expedited processing lab. The resulting data shattered the 60-day illusion of a perfect crime. The phantom perpetrator suddenly gained a very human and very vulnerable profile. The police hold this physical item in a secure evidence locker. It represents the ultimate fatal flaw in an otherwise flawless evasion strategy. The suspect firmly believes the desert swallowed their secret forever. They are completely unaware that their identity is currently sitting on an investigator desk. The specific nature of this item limits the suspect pool to exactly one individual. This is not a vague circumstantial connection. This is a direct physical tie forged in the sand. The forensic lab confirmed the absolute connection. The official police briefing validated the existence of the specific name. The physical item is now the absolute center of gravity for this entire investigation. The full weight of the criminal justice system is focused on one specific address. The suspect walked into the desert as an anonymous ghost. They walked out, leaving their definitive signature in the dirt. Forensic science stripped away their anonymity in a matter of hours. The physical item bridges the impossible gap between the isolated wasteland and the city streets. The police are actively tracing that connection right now. They are meticulously mapping the suspect life based on the item recovered from the dirt. The evidence tells a clear story of panic and extreme carelessness. It is the ultimate betrayal of the suspect's own meticulous planning. The authorities possess the definitive physical proof. They know exactly who was in that desert. But having the proof and executing an arrest are two entirely different tactical maneuvers. This brings us to a highly unusual investigative decision that changes everything. The authorities possess the name. The forensic evidence is apparently solid, yet they absolutely refuse to release the identity to the public. The lead investigator faced the local news cameras and specifically cited case integrity. He stonewalled every single reporter. This presents a massive investigative contradiction. Usually when law enforcement identifies a violent suspect, they plaster the name everywhere. They actively ask for public assistance to locate the fugitive. They want the entire community on high alert. But today they chose absolute silence. This silence is a highly calculated message. If the suspect was a random drifter, the police would issue an immediate public safety warning. If they believed a serial predator was currently roaming the streets, they would prioritize community safety above all else. They would release a photo immediately. They would describe a suspect vehicle to every news station. The refusal to warn the public indicates they do not view this suspect as a random threat. It means the suspect is rigidly isolated to this specific case. It heavily implies the secret name belongs to someone deeply embedded in the narrative. The strategic silence is a psychological weapon deployed by the authorities. They are weaponizing the lack of information directly against the suspect. The police are playing a high-stakes game of tactical poker. They hold the winning hand with the physical evidence from the desert. The suspect currently thinks the police are still bluffing. The authorities want the suspect to continue living their normal daily routine. They want them going to work every morning. They want them talking freely on their cell phone. They want them casually accessing their bank accounts. The moment the police announce the suspect name, that person goes completely underground. They destroy secondary evidence in their home. They retain legal counsel and stop talking entirely. The strategic silence prevents that immediate defensive reaction. The police are likely monitoring the suspect right now. They are watching the residents, they are tracking the vehicle movements, they are listening to the digital communications. They need the suspect to feel entirely secure. A secure suspect is a sloppy suspect. They might revisit a secondary evidence location. They might attempt to contact an unwitting accomplice. They might suddenly dispose of remaining physical evidence in a state of delayed panic. The police are waiting for that crucial secondary mistake. The initial error was leaving the physical item in the desert sand. The next error will provide the final, undeniable nail for the prosecution. The silence also aggressively protects the impending legal case. Defense attorneys thrive on premature media leaks. They use early public statements to taint the jury pool before a trial even begins. They twist police announcements to manufacture reasonable doubt. The lead investigator is completely shutting down that legal avenue. He is keeping the cards hidden to ensure a watertight conviction. He is protecting the case from procedural loopholes. The tension is absolutely excruciating for the public watching this unfold. We demand the name immediately. We want immediate justice for the victim, but the police are playing an extended long game. They are systematically building an inescapable legal fortress around this individual. The suspect is currently living on borrowed time. They are sitting in their living room completely oblivious to the active surveillance. They think the first 60 days of evasion proves their criminal genius. They have absolutely no idea the desert just betrayed them. The police are letting them enjoy their final remaining days of freedom. The stark contrast between the public desperation for answers, methodical patience of the police is striking. It creates a terrifying valley of anticipation. The hammer is hovering directly above the suspect. The authorities are simply choosing the exact millisecond to let it drop. This strategic delay is the most dangerous possible phase for the suspect. Every single move they make is currently being documented for a jury. Every casual conversation is being heavily scrutinized. The silence is not a lack of investigative progress. The silence is an active and closing trap. The authorities are not afraid of this person running away. The authorities are holding back because they want this person to believe they have won. The suspect is operating under a fatal delusion of safety. They think their perfect cover is still intact, but the police already know exactly who they are dealing with and they are coming. You need to be here when that trap finally snaps shut on the suspect. Subscribe to Evidence with John to follow every tactical move in this case. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a critical update. We will analyze the arrest report the second the police break their silence. They are letting the suspect sleep peacefully tonight, but tomorrow the reality of the desert will crash through their front door. The profile of the secret name is crystallizing right now. The authorities are no longer chasing shadows. The evidence paints a highly specific and terrifying portrait. Let us examine the three established pillars forming this suspect. First, evaluate the urban evasion tactics. On day one, the perpetrator successfully navigated a heavily monitored city. They bypassed traffic cameras on major intersections. They avoided residential security systems perfectly. That level of ghosting requires intimate knowledge of the daily schedule kept by the victim. It demands a rigorous understanding of the local surveillance grid. A transient stranger does not possess that granular, localized data. Second, evaluate the geographical choice of the crime scene. The isolated desert perimeter is not a random pull-off on a dark highway. It sits deep within an incredibly hostile wasteland. The suspect knew the exact dirt access roads to take. They understood the off-road capabilities of their specific vehicle. They knew precisely how many miles they had to drive to completely lose cellular tracking signals. This heavily implies previous scouting trips. It indicates a deep historical familiarity with the desolate terrain surrounding the metropolitan area. Third, consider the nature of the physical item recovered. The rapid identification by the regional crime lab suggests a pre-existing system record or a highly personal identifier left behind. The hostile desert environment stripped away their carefully constructed urban camouflage. Bring these three crucial data points together immediately. You get a highly restrictive and terrifying Venn diagram. The alleged perpetrator possesses intimate knowledge of the victim's personal routine. The suspect holds deep geographical expertise of the surrounding uninhabited wasteland. And this suspect made a catastrophic physical error while operating under extreme psychological pressure. This is exactly where I want you to step into the active investigation. Look back at the people existing in the immediate circle. Analyze the early media interviews broadcast during the first week of the search effort. Who fits this exact trifold profile? Who possesses the logistical capability to vanish inside the city limits and safely navigate the deep desert at night? Drop your specific suspect profiles in the comments section below right now. The true crime community frequently spots subtle behavioral inconsistencies long before the authorities make them officially public. The local police already possess the actual name, matching this exact behavioral profile. The lead investigator is currently staring at a person who seamlessly blends into the daily world of the victim. The perpetrator is highly likely someone who physically shook hands with the detectives early on. They might have actively participated in the initial volunteer search parties. They likely stood directly in front of the local news cameras expressing deep fake concern. They performed this theatrical grief while knowing exactly what they left hidden out in the sand. This specific level of psychological compartmentalization is absolutely staggering to contemplate. It requires a brutally cold and highly calculating mind to maintain that innocent facade for 60 consecutive days. They watched the fruitless city searches with a hidden smirk. They felt completely untouchable out in their desert secret. But that rigid psychological profile is now actively working against them. Their extreme baseline confidence led directly to the sloppy physical mistake out in the wasteland. The forensic technicians exploited that specific arrogance perfectly. The authorities are currently verifying the physical dirt evidence against this established psychological profile. The complex puzzle pieces are snapping together with terrifying velocity today. The faceless phantom is rapidly morphing into a very familiar face. This is clearly not a random crime of opportunity gone wrong. This is a highly orchestrated event executed by someone hiding in plain sight. The police briefing explicitly confirmed they hold the verified identity. The strategic silence maintained by the department further confirms the suspect proximity to the ongoing case. We are currently watching the final agonizing hours of a massive 60-day charade. The suspect spent 2 months building an impenetrable fortress of lies. The forensic team just kicked down the main gate using science. The terrifying realization is hitting the suspect right at this very moment. The live news broadcasts are playing loudly on their living room television. They see the yellow police tape surrounding their private desert sanctuary. The physical panic is finally setting in deep. The suspect pulse is racing uncontrollably. They are suddenly realizing the local police are not running a bluff. The authorities actually possess the missing physical link. The investigation is currently cresting its absolute peak of tension. The physical evidence is completely overwhelming. The suspect profile is totally undeniable. The legal net is drawn incredibly tight around one specific address. Ensure you are subscribed to Evidence with John to witness the inevitable legal takedown. Click the notification bell immediately to track every single movement. We are abruptly entering the most volatile and dangerous phase of the entire criminal case. The climax of the active hunt is shifting rapidly. The adrenaline of the desert discovery is transforming into a slow and agonizing wait for formal justice. The reality of day 62 is stark and unyielding. The authorities are not rushing to slap handcuffs on a suspect tonight. The meticulous legal process is currently taking absolute control of the timeline. Forensic technicians remain heavily stationed at the desert perimeter right now. They are meticulously sifting the remaining sand through fine mesh screens. They are desperately searching for secondary microscopic fragments connected to the initial physical item. The regional crime lab is processing the resulting environmental data around the clock. The lead investigator is currently sitting inside a secure room with the district attorney. They are systematically reviewing the forensic lab reports line by line. They are drafting a heavily fortified and legally bulletproof arrest warrant. A single typographical error in a search warrant can ruin an entire criminal prosecution. A minor procedural mistake can allow a guilty person to walk free on a technicality. They are ensuring the legal paperwork is entirely perfect before moving forward. The remote desert scene is locked down tightly under heavy armed police guard. The suspect absolutely cannot return to the site to sanitize the area. The critical physical evidence is safely secured inside a climate-controlled police vault, but the active investigation still faces two massive and agonizing voids. We must immediately confront the dark questions still haunting this ongoing case. First, how exactly will the secret name react to their rapidly crumbling facade? The suspect is completely cornered by the sudden media announcements. A cornered individual is highly unpredictable and extremely dangerous. Will they attempt to flee the legal jurisdiction under the cover of darkness tonight? Will they immediately seek high-priced legal counsel and completely refuse to speak to detectives? Or will the crushing psychological pressure force a sudden and dramatic confession? The authorities are actively anticipating every single possible reaction. They have undercover surveillance units ready to move the exact second the suspect breaks their daily pattern. The operational tension is a living, breathing entity across the city right now. Second, and most importantly, where is Nancy Guthrie today? The desolate desert crime scene yielded a crucial piece of forensic evidence. It provided the verified identity of the alleged perpetrator to the police, but the local police briefing specifically did not confirm her current physical location. Violently disturbed Earth held a dark secret, but it did not hold the ultimate final answer. The recovered physical item connects the suspect directly to the wasteland environment. It does not explicitly tell us what actually happened after that specific item was accidentally dropped. The physical search for Nancy is incredibly far from over. The search effort is simply entering a highly targeted and geographically specific new phase. The alleged suspect holds the final missing piece of the geographical puzzle locked inside their head. The authorities desperately need the suspect sitting inside an interrogation room to extract that final location. The family is currently enduring another brutal night of agonizing uncertainty. They know the local police have a specific name written down. They know the police are guarding a disturbed crime scene, but they still do not have Nancy back. The investigative focus remains entirely on bringing her home. The desert provided a major tactical breakthrough, but the law enforcement work remains painfully incomplete. We are currently standing on the precipice of a major tactical police action. The entire true crime community remains on absolute high alert. The suspect identity is burning a hole inside a police file folder right now. The seasoned investigators are intensely watching the clock on the wall. They are waiting for the district attorney to sign the final charging document. Every passing hour significantly amplifies the dread. Every single news cycle tightens the psychological grip firmly on the perpetrator. The total silence from the police department acts as a heavy blanket covering the entire city. The detectives are moving with absolute lethal precision. They absolutely refuse to let this suspect slip through a minor legal loophole. The incredibly meticulous nature of the forensic fieldwork guarantees a solid foundation for the upcoming trial. The unforgiving desert finally gave up the critical physical clue. The police are now weaponizing that clue for maximum psychological impact. The current waiting game is brutal, but entirely necessary for a conviction. The suspect is trapped securely inside a mental prison of their own making. They are anxiously waiting for the heavy knock on the front door. We are waiting vigilantly right alongside them. The case remains actively open and highly fluid. The physical danger to the community is still potentially present. The true story is incredibly far from its final conclusion. The window before an arrest is the most dangerous investigative phase. What this case teaches us about strategic silence is absolutely crucial. The public demands immediate transparency. We want the accused face plastered across every single television screen immediately. But releasing a suspect name prematurely severely damages the prosecution. It hands defense attorneys a massive tactical advantage. They immediately claim media bias tainted the entire jury pool. They file motions to suppress the freshly recovered desert evidence. They argue the police caved to public pressure instead of following forensic science. The authorities are actively denying the defense that specific narrative. This silence forces the suspect into a state of severe psychological isolation. They cannot publicly defend themselves without drawing unwanted police attention. They cannot flee without triggering an immediate manhunt. They are trapped by the very anonymity they desperately tried to maintain. The investigators are meticulously building a timeline capable of surviving brutal courtroom scrutiny. They must prove beyond a reasonable doubt exactly how the suspect transported the victim. They must definitively link the physical item to the specific day Nancy vanished. This requires analyzing massive amounts of secondary data. It means securing search warrants for private digital accounts and financial records. Rushing an arrest based on a single piece of physical evidence is incredibly reckless. It often leads to drop charges or disastrous acquittals. The detectives are playing a high-stakes chess game against a highly organized individual. The authorities endure intense public criticism gladly if it guarantees a flawless conviction. They prefer angry citizens over a free criminal, and right now the judicial clock is ticking incredibly loudly. The authorities secured the isolated desert perimeter. They extracted the vital physical clue from the sand. They possess the secret name locked securely inside a case file. The final remaining piece is the metallic click of handcuffs. We will cover every single development in this fast-moving investigation. Ensure you subscribe to Evidence with John right now. You need to know the exact moment the police finally break their strategic silence. We will analyze the official arrest documents the second they hit the public record. The suspect feels the intense heat of the investigation closing in tonight. They are desperately analyzing their past actions for any other fatal flaws. They know the desert dirt already betrayed their ultimate secret, because somewhere out there, the alleged perpetrator is watching this exact same news update. They hear the police briefing confirming the forensic match, and they know their borrowed time is officially up.